Hey there, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm super excited to share with you a look at January through June in my Project Life album for 2025. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, you guys, I'm so excited that this album is completed. Before I get into the flip through, this is a 9x12 album from scrapbook.com. And I have been using these since 2023 for Project Life, and I really love the 9x12 size. The page protectors are also from scrapbook.com. They have the 3 rings, so the Ali Edwards branded ones will not fit because those have 4 rings. But I use them occasionally and just repunch the holes. It doesn't bother me to do that at all. So this was my title page. And I do have process videos for pretty much every spread in here. I think every spread, honestly. And also for how I set up this album at the beginning of the year. So if you're interested in those, I will link the playlist down in the description box below and you can go back and watch those. My cover is usually about the same. I typically put that is January through June because it's the first 6 months. The second 6 months go into second album. I put pause because that's my one little word for 2025. I have stopped doing a separate documentation project for one little word. I just had too many projects going on, but I will include it in things like my Project Life and my journal and things like that. I have a photo of me, a photo of my boyfriend, a photo of my cat, which that's my family right now who lives in my house. I no longer put my daughter on the front because she has moved out and is on her own. So she doesn't show up in my album that often. Even when she was younger though, I consider Project Life to be a documentation of my life. So her, my boyfriend, everyone else kind of shows up as supporting characters. This is my life, and they are only in here to the extent they are involved in my life. So moving into the first week of January. So I typically use a kit for most of my spreads, and I just find that that is easier. It helps guide the storytelling, and it just makes it a lot of fun as a process to put the spread together. This is using the January Stories by the Month kit from Ali Edwards. Then here I'm using the January collection from Cocoa Daisy. I do not remember all of the names of those collections, but it will say in the process video for that spread what collection it is. I really have loved using the Cocoa Daisy kits in my Project Life album this year. If you guys are not aware, I'm on their creative team, so I do create 4 projects per month using their kits. I used to have to do those, or I do have to do those a month before the kit releases and before that month so that you guys can have examples. However, that meant I wasn't able to use them in that month. And as you can see from the theme of the products, they really fit that month and it says January all over it. So I'm super thankful this year they have allowed me to do one of my projects during the month itself to share with you guys. So I hope that you have enjoyed that. Here I'm using the Hello Story Kit, which I think was the very last story kit. So the story kit subscription from Ali Edwards has one that went on for I think like 10 years. And I had it the entire time. And I've used those kits in my Project Life album throughout, so I kind of have to adapt as we don't have those anymore. And then it looks like I did another spread using the Stories by the Month, although I think that these days of the week were from those were from I think the Daily Scrapbook kit from Ali Edwards. And then this year I'm including these inserts that are they're 6x8 with the 2x2 pockets to hold my ephemera each month. And I have these pieces of the month on there that I made. Those are a free download. And that is in my 2025 Project Life setup video. So that's linked in the description box below if you're interested in grabbing those. You could always use them in a future year because they don't have the year on them. They just have the months. Other than these, though, I haven't been doing any other inserts in Project Life, just my pocket pages for my weekly spreads, which I really have loved. In the past, I've done some traditional layouts inserted in here, and I just kind of stepped away from that this year, and I'm happy with that. It's not necessarily like an intentional commitment to not do any, but I just haven't felt drawn to do that. And I have other albums that I'm documenting in. So this was the Fun Storyteller Kit. So this is the first storyteller kit from Ali Edwards. And what I found with the storyteller kits that are now quarterly, so Ali Edwards replaced the story kits that were monthly and the quarterly scrapbook kits with the quarterly storyteller kit. So I have been using them to do 1 spread per month, so 3 spreads per kit, and that has been working really well. Moving into the February Cocoa Daisy kit. This was not one of my favorite kits, and for whatever reason, I feel like the February kits are usually my least favorite in the year, but I'm still super happy with how this spread came out. I really like the blues, and I felt like it worked really well with February, all the cold. Here's the February Stories by the Month kit. Again, February kits are always my least favorite. It doesn't matter the manufacturer. I don't know if it's, I like pink and I like hearts, but for whatever reason, February kits just never get me right. Here's my ephemera from February. And then here is a travel spread. So in my Project Life album, I don't skip any weeks, even if I have travel, if I have week in life, if I have other projects, it just comes in here anyways. And I will split the weeks. So I do these weekly. These are weekly spreads, but I do adjust as needed to fit specific things. So we went to Doha, Qatar for our first trip this year. And we went for however many days that is, in the 5 days. So I just made the spread cover 5 days. And again, I used the Fun Storyteller kit. Then our next destination was Dubai and Abu Dhabi, so the United Arab Emirates. I decided to combine those into one spread because Abu Dhabi was just 1 day. And so I have, again, like a 4-day spread and all of my photos from that adventure. I did add in a little insert here because I needed more than what I could include on just one spread. I just had so many photos. It was hard to narrow it down. I also put together a separate travel album documenting this adventure from these 2 weeks. And I do have that whole process on YouTube. I will link that in the description box below for you guys. But I like to document it in here as well. I don't mind that it's duplicated because some of the stories are a little bit different. And this is more like the overview because I like to have the ability to kind of flip through here and see my whole year at a glance. And I can look at that other album if I want to see way more detail about this specific adventure. Back at home, I'm using the March kit from Cocoa Daisy. This one was super fun. They have these adorable little frogs, which of course don't fit my life in March, but they were super cute and I liked the greens. Here was, I think this one was kind of like a stash busting, or this is from the Frame scrapbook kit, so an older scrapbook kit. And I think I just kind of had these laying around and wanted to just use up some of those older products. So having less kits this year has given me the opportunity to do some more stash busting spreads. But I have found that when I do a stash busting spread, I don't like to just kind of grab random things from my stash as I work on it. I like to have more of a directed focus because that's going to make it a little bit easier and more cohesive. Again, here's another stash busting spread, and I talk more about these in these process videos, but I think I picked cards that were all around a certain color scheme to kind of make this spread cohesive. This is the March Stories by the Month kit, and I have been putting these pocket page with my ephemera inside the whatever week I use the Stories by the Month kit, except for in January because I used it twice. And I always use the Stories by the Month kit pretty much the first week of January because it has like all these hello 2025 or the new year stuff. And I don't want to do the ephemera at the beginning of the month because I tend to kind of document as I go. So I need to put this together after the month is over. So like this is the week of March 24th through March 30th. So the end of the month. So I was done with living the month and collecting ephemera by the time I put the spread together. I really love how this came out, cutting out that word currently. Here is again with the Fun Storyteller kit. And this was a week that was, so this is a full week because I wasn't traveling or anything, but a lot of the spread is dominated by 1 day when I went and hung out with my friends, both Jens, in Beacon, New York, which is a little bit south from where I live. And so we had like a shopping day. We got coffee, we had lunch, we went to bookstores, we went to craft stores. So like most of these photos are from that, and that's totally okay because not a lot else happened during the week. Here is the April kit from Cocoa Daisy. And then here is, I think this is the Q&A storyteller kit. So now we're moving into quarter 2, and I did a spread using that kit. I plan out all of my projects for the storyteller kits in the storyteller classrooms, so you can see kind of how I initially approached these spreads or planned them before I put them together. But I do still have the process videos for how they came together here on YouTube. You can see though with these kits, there's a lot of these like directed cards that kind of go together in a set, and I really like that for a week because it makes it super easy to put the spread together and make it cohesive. Here's the April stories by the month, and again my ephemera. It's so fun to look back on this, you guys, because I don't flip through these that often while I'm working on them, so just kind of seeing this, how it all came together at the end, is so fun for me. Here's working. I started this paint by painting, which I finished very recently. So it's fun to see kind of the progress on all these little things. And I think this is a good week, which is a good reminder that it doesn't really matter what you have going on in your life. You can do this project. You don't need to be super busy. So like this week, I have a mirror selfie. I have 2 photos of my cat, 2 photos of flowers in my yard, 3 photos of flowers in my yard, and this bird that landed on the window at work, a project I'm working on, and just like a photo of my house. So like nothing really big or important is happening, but it's still really fun to look back and see these stories, these little details of life. Here's the May kit from Cocoa Daisy. This week there was a lot of like updates around the house, and this is not a full week because I'm adjusting because again, we're going on vacation. And I put my travel day on this spread rather than my travel spread because usually when you have travel, you have way more photos. So putting the travel day, I'm going to include this photo on the spread. Otherwise, that photo would get cut. So then we're getting into this travel, and these are very short spreads. So at the end of the year, I'm going to have way more than 52 spreads because like this is a 3-day spread, because this is our first destination in this vacation was Seattle, Washington. And this is using the older Seek Story kit. So again, I'm going back in my stash and kind of crushing some of those older kits that were waiting for me to get to. Here I'm using I think this is the July collection from Cocoa Daisy. I ended up using it in May because it had these like Portland travel theme things, and we went to Portland. So this is the spread from when we went to Portland, Oregon. Next stop, we went to San Francisco, and again, using an older story kit. This is, which one is this? The pieces or whole? This is the whole story kit. And I was super excited to use this one because it's been sitting there for a while in my stash. Here we have, again, the storyteller kit. This is the Q&A storyteller kit. This was our next destination. I just put California because we went to a few different places in California. And even though San Francisco, of course, is in California, but we went to 2 national parks and visited my parents. And so I have another little insert here. And then back home, we have the May Stories by the Month kit and my May ephemera. Had more this month, so it filled up both sides. Here's the June collection from Cocoa Daisy. And then this week was the week I documented Week in the Life, which I have a separate journal that I used for that this year. And I have some videos about that on my YouTube channel, so I will link those in the description box below. But again, I want to include it in here because I don't want any gaps in this album. But because this week is documented in so much detail in another album, I decided to not include any words on the spread and instead just pick some photos. I did a meal photo for every day so you can kind of get an overview of what I'm eating right now. And then I have pictures from every day. I just picked like one picture to kind of represent the day. And this gave me the opportunity to use some of the Week in the Life supplies that I wasn't able to use in my journal. Here we have the Q&A Storyteller Kit again for, I think this is my third spread using that collection, getting me through the end of the second quarter. Here we have another stash busting spread. This is an older story kit called, this is the Nature Story Kit. So I'm almost done working through some of the old story kits, but I still have a few left. So they will probably pop up as stash busting spreads throughout the rest of 2025 and maybe into 2026. We'll see. And then here we have the June stories by the month to end off the month. And then I have my ephemera from June. And then I ended my album with this page. I decided to just pull a large piece of paper that had been sitting in my stash forever from Studio Calico and stick it in here. But then I decided to do some kind of recaps on some tags here. So I really love how it came out, but it ended up taking forever to do all of this stamping. But it was a fun way to kind of wrap up the first 6 months of the year and have them all documented in this album. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys on the next one. Bye.